When I was 10, my father died unexpectedly. Then the lawyer asked if I wanted to stay with my mother, or take the 200 million my father left behind. In my past life, I cried and begged for my mother. In the end, she took my father's death benefit, and immediately married the neighbor Wang. Oh no, I mean Uncle Zhao. I became the burden in their eyes. In the end, I worked myself to death on a construction site. I was only 28 when I died. Looking back at that pitiful, ridiculous life, I was utterly stupid from start to finish. Now the crossroads of fate appears again. The woman in front of me cries like pear blossoms in the rain. Dad, how could you leave? How are we, a widow and an orphan, supposed to go on? She wails heart-wrenchingly, her body limp like mud. If no one were there to hold her up, she would collapse to the ground at any moment. In my past life, I was fooled by this act of hers. I thought she was truly grief-stricken. I thought she couldn't live without me. So I rushed over and hugged her legs, crying and yelling that I had to be with her. And what happened? She took the compensation my father bought with his life. Within 3 months, she happily remarried. She married the man she always called Uncle Zhao, who had been taking care of us. My father's ashes weren't even cold yet. That man moved into our house. He slept in the new bed my father once slept in. And I became the extra, unwanted presence. I became the burden they didn't want around. Zhao Chong had a son 2 years older than me. He treated me like a thorn in his side. To please that stepson, Li Lan beat and scolded me without mercy. The money my father left behind became the capital for their family to eat, drink, and have fun. It became my stepbrother's ticket to impress girls and flaunt wealth. Meanwhile, I had to collect scraps just to afford tuition. I was kicked out to work before even finishing high school. They called it making a man independent early. I carried bricks on construction sites for 10 full years. Finally, I collapsed from overwork. I fell onto a pile of scorching steel bars, and I never woke up again. Now I'm back. Li Lan pulls my hand and says, "Don't be afraid, Xiao Ning. From now on, Mom will take good care of you." She hugged me, her tears and snot smearing all over my face. But deep in her eyes, something was hidden. A barely noticeable urgency and greed. Seeing this, I didn't cry or make a scene like in my past life. I just quietly watched her performance with cold eyes. Then my dad's old friend walked over. Also his lawyer, Uncle Zhou. Lawyer Zhou sighed and patted my shoulder. Then he took a document from his briefcase. Lawyer Zhou said, "Li Lan, Xiao Ning. This is the will Ning Gu made before he passed." Lawyer Zhou's voice was exceptionally heavy. Ning Gu considered all possibilities. He has assets totaling 200 million. They have already been notarized. Now there are 2 choices. First, Xiao Ning stays with you. This money will be kept as compensation and child support, managed by you on his behalf, until Xiao Ning becomes an adult. Upon hearing this, Li Lan's breathing instantly quickened. A frightening gleam lit up her eyes. She stared fixedly at the will. Second, if Xiao Ning chooses not to stay with you, the money will be transferred to a trust fund, managed by me on his behalf. Xiao Ning will have sole control over it, and you, Li Lan, will receive none of it. The air seemed to freeze instantly. Everyone's gaze focused on me, this 10-year-old child. Li Lan's body went stiff. She stared at Lawyer Zhou in disbelief, as if to say, "How could you propose such a choice?" Then, she immediately put on a heartbroken expression, and held me tightly in her arms. Li Lan wailed, "Lawyer Zhou, how can you say such a thing? How could I ever abandon my son? Xiao Ning is my whole life." She wailed loudly while pinching my arm. Pinching my arm, she viciously threatened in my ear. "Ning Yi," she hissed. "Say one wrong word, and I'll beat you to death. You're my son. Your money is my money." In my past life, those words made me tremble with fear. I was also moved when she said, "Mom can't live without you." But now, I only feel a wave of nausea and disgust. I can feel her hand trembling as she pinches me. Not from grief, but from excitement and nervousness. 200 million. She had never seen so much money in her life. She was already fantasizing about the days after getting the money, dreaming of a happy life eloping with Zhao Chong. Slowly, bit by bit, I began to break free from her suffocating embrace. After breaking free, I lifted my head, meeting the stunned gaze of Lawyer Zhou. I spoke clearly, word by word. "Uncle Zhou, I choose the second option. I choose the 200 million. The entire funeral hall fell into dead silence, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. A needle falling to the ground would have been audible. Everyone froze as if a pause button had been pressed. They stared at me in shock, mouths agape. The sorrowful expression on Leland's face instantly froze. Then it cracked, inch by inch, finally turning into shock and disbelief. Leland shrieked, "Ning-yi, what did you say?" Her voice was so piercing it felt like it would tear through eardrums. Calmly, I repeated myself. My voice was soft, but it struck like nails. "I said I don't want you. I want the money." Leland screamed, "Are you crazy? You unfilial son. I'm your own mother." Leland completely lost control. She lunged at me like a hysterical woman, raising her hand to slap my face. But her wrist was caught by a large hand. The one who caught her was Lawyer Zhou. Lawyer Zhou said, his face iron gray. Lawyer Zhou said with a grim face, "Leland, please calm down. This is in front of Brother Ning's memorial. And this is Xiaoyi's own choice. What does a little kid like her know? You must have taken her away." Lawyer Zhou disgustedly shook off her hand and said, "Let me say it again. This is Brother Ning's will. It has legal effect. Since Xiaoyi has made her choice, I will immediately initiate the relevant procedures. From now on, you are no longer her legal guardian." Leland was completely stunned. She looked at me, her eyes full of malice and unwillingness, as if looking at a mortal enemy. She probably couldn't figure out why her usually cowardly and obedient son would suddenly become so strange and cold. I couldn't be bothered with her anymore. I walked over to Lawyer Zhou, tugged at the hem of her clothes and asked, "Uncle Zhou, did my dad already know?" Lawyer Zhou's body jolted. She crouched down and looked seriously into my eyes. After a long while, she nodded painfully and said, "Your father was a smart man. He loved you so much." Those words made my eyes instantly red. Yes, my dad was such a smart man. How could he not see through Leland's fickleness? He only endured it silently, to give me a complete family, until he was diagnosed with terminal illness and had little time left. Only then did he pave this escape route for me. In my past life I was so foolish. I personally destroyed my father's last love. In this life I won't make the same mistake. I choose the 200 million. Leland was eventually dragged away by the relatives. The venomous look in her eyes as she left. I engraved it in my heart and remembered it for life. But I couldn't care less. From the second I made my choice, the mother-son bond between us was severed. Only hatred remained. Lawyer Zhou became my guardian. He is an upright and reliable person. After my dad's funeral was over, Lawyer Zhou took me to live at his place. He showed me a long investment list. These are all projects my dad and I researched before he passed away. But I flipped straight to the last page. "Uncle Zhou, sell all of these earlier ones." Lawyer Zhou was taken aback and said, Lawyer Zhou's finger tapped on the list, tapping on a few inconspicuous names. "Put all the money into these companies." Lawyer Zhou said without understanding, "What about the rest? What kind of companies are these? Never heard of them. Xiaoyi investing is no joke." "Uncle Zhou, do you trust my dad?" He was stunned for a moment, then, "Of course I do." He immediately nodded and said, "Then trust me this once too. My dad told me this in a dream. I could only use that lame excuse." But Lawyer Zhou looked into my eyes. Those eyes were so calm they didn't seem like a 10-year-old's. Somehow he nodded without thinking. What he didn't know was, the few names I pointed out would shake the entire world this year. They would become the most massive business giants. And I would be their most mysterious shareholder behind the scenes.
Follow, like, comment, and share for part 2.